This is the last time you'll see the Old Anvil Speed Shop 1962 Impala SS convertible until it's revealed at the 2024 SEMA show in Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome back to Old Anvil TV. In this video, we're going to give you the final update on our one-of-a-kind 62 Impala build. From fabrication and bodywork to wiring and upholstery, the guys have been hard at work getting this car ready for paint and final assembly. In case you're new to the build, we'll give you a little rundown of how we got here. The build started as a 46,000 mile running and driving car with original interior and only a single respray. Then we proceeded to strip the whole car down to bare metal and build it back up from there. We designed and fabricated a completely custom chassis and turned this convertible into a unibody, fabricated new floors and trans tunnel, a unique and slightly controversial spoiler, and designed everything around the idea of setting the car as low as possible while rolling on 24-inch rear wheels. Oh, and under the hood will be a 1200 horsepower Kong supercharged Nelson racing engine. The last time you saw it, we just wrapped up the custom stainless exhaust, drivetrain mounts, trans tunnel, and a few other details. Since then, a lot has changed. After Jake finished fabricating the custom stainless headers, Phil continued with the inner fenders. In the last video, you saw a rough shape of the panels, but there was a lot more to do. Phil did some amazing beadwork around the upper and lower seams and around the hinges. He even used dimple dies to stamp a detail around the hardware. Then Brandon got to work on the air intake tube for the Nelson racing engine. He started with a simple tube design, but the plan quickly changed. Brandon ended up fabricating a completely custom dual air intake system that would grab air from behind the inner fenders. The box tube with radius corners adds a unique look that really blends in with the rest of the engine bay. After that, Phil got back to finishing out the inner fender panels with a mount for the Old Anvil Speed Shop coolant and power steering reservoirs, made to look like a factory stamped piece. In case you don't already follow us on Instagram, here's a quick look at how we made that happen. Some shops would just bolt or weld this mount into the inner fender and call it a day, but we aren't your average shop. Phil starts by laying out where he wants the mount to sit before making a few cleco holes. Phil scribes around the reservoir mount, then uses the Rotex to quickly punch out most of the material inside his scribe line. He trims the rest with a set of shears, then cleans up the edges with a disc and barrel sander. He uses a set of pliers he made to offset the tabs, allowing the two pieces of metal to sit flush. Then he starts tacking it in place. Phil removes the clecos and tabs and proceeds to fully TIG weld the piece. Now it's time to make that weld disappear. But first, Phil needs to pull out the hammer and correct for warpage caused by the TIG welding process. Then he carefully works to grind down the weld seam. After a final metal finish with a DA, it's mission accomplished. Phil bolts the inner fender panel back in and test fits the Old Anvil Speed Shop reservoirs to see how it looks. While you can't buy this custom inner fender panel, you can buy these CNC machined reservoirs that we make right here in our Orange, California shop at oldanvilspeedshop.com. We've gone over and above in many aspects of this 10-month build. But to add one more to the list, Paul decided to fabricate new front and rear aluminum bumpers completely from scratch.
Hey, I'm Paul at Old Anvil Speed Shop, and today we're going to build bumpers. Start on the rear bumper for the 62 Impala Super Sport convertible. We had some really nice bumpers off this car. They were really nice shape, but we're tossing them to the side to build some new ones. So I'm gonna start out building this top piece. We're gonna first form this piece, and then we'll form the bottom part, make that straight across, and then I'll start wrapping around the sides with it. We're gonna build it out of 090 aluminum. It's 3000 series aluminum, so we can anneal it, make it super soft. We can form the ends a lot easier. We're gonna be making some Pullmax dies and to make this shape along the top and the bottom, and should keep it pretty consistent. And then we're gonna go back in and we're gonna cut a diffuser in the bottom according to our new renderings. So it's gonna look pretty modern. And another reason why we're building the bumpers, I want to crisp up some of these edges and make them straight. Original bumpers were stamped and they're just so heavy that they have some waves and all in them. I've never actually seen a set, but they did make aluminum bumpers for this car for the what was it, the Z11 drag car, I think it was. And they were super fast, had the 409 in them, hit the drag racing scene. And the aluminum bumpers took off a lot of weight. So kind of what we have in mind. So follow along and see how I put them together.
To hide all the weld seams and give the bumper a finish good enough to polish, Paul spent hours hand filing the bumpers. And once he ran out of time to do all the work himself, he passed the bumpers along to Brandon to finish them out. Brandon's probably still toiling over these rear bumper corners as we speak. We've probably got enough footage to turn this into a video all by itself. Would you want to watch more of Paul and Brandon shaping aluminum? Let us know in the comments. This factory-appearing hood scoop was a ton of work and ended up turning out great. And speaking of a full video by itself, rather than trying to explain the whole process, you can just go watch the video we did shadowing Brandon as he fabricated the scoop into existence. Sometime around here, we finally got our first look at the massive 24-inch rear and 22-inch front wheels from Schott, wrapped in Vredestein tires. As mentioned, this was the central point of the build from the start. It was all about fitting 24s under the rear of the car while actually dropping it down low. Before this car, the biggest we'd ever seen anyone go on a 62 convertible was 22s. The only way we were able to achieve this was the custom integrated chassis, along with some precise cutting and fabrication of the rear wheel tubs. Even up front, we had to get creative by machining our own lower arms for the Eddie Motorsports billet hood hinges, because the original setup interfered with the top of the tires and didn't allow us to lower the car as much as we wanted. The guys at Eddie Motorsports were super cool about it all and even offered to re-powder coat the modified hood and trunk hinges. While we were there dropping off the hinges at their warehouse in Rancho Cucamonga, California, one of the marketing guys, Darren, even gave us a quick tour around their facilities. Check it out.
All right, hey, I'm Darren with Eddie Motorsports. Gonna show you around a little bit and see how we do things around here. All right, so we have 25 machines running all day, every day. Lathes, bar feeders, 5-axis, everything. Sill plates starting here. Everything we make and manufacture here. So any of our hinges, sill plates, just about anything you see on our catalog, we make it right here under this roof. I mean, even our stainless fasteners, we make a lot of those here. We cut our Delrin here. We try to keep everything under the same roof. We outsource for very few parts. The few parts that we do, it's just, it just makes more sense that way. Every piece of every hinge, other than a few of the fasteners, are done here. Like I said, we try to keep it all under one roof. Try to keep it 100% USA. It's something we've done since we first started, and we intend to keep it that way. I'm going to show you powder coat back here. Cerakote is something that we started offering, but it's become an outside process for the moment. Powder coat we keep in-house though. So those are all parts that they're doing for Revology right now. So here, that's Rashad. So he does all of our welding. It's pretty much a one-man show when it comes to welding and fabrication back here. He does all of our risers for exhaust. He pretty much anything welded, he's doing it. But yeah, so this is our new, I don't know if you've seen this. This is our Pro Touring kit, our Pro Touring serpentine kit. So we did a larger power steering pulley, added an idler. That we get more wrap, eliminate over revving. So it's perfect, for Pro Touring models or anything, high RPM, high horsepower. So this was our SEMA build. This is what we did last year for SEMA. So this is our 87. This debuted a lot of our newer parts in it. So this split bumper was one of the last vehicles that Ed finished before he passed. So this was the baby. A lot of custom additions, a lot of things you won't see ever again. Nothing that we ever put into production. Yeah, and then like I said before, we do marine as well. So marine trim tabs. These are our K-plane trim tabs. So we do marine and motorsports under the same roof. Everything's kept here, machined, assembled. Everything. There's some of our new kinetic handles as well. You saw those in one of the trucks. This is black anodized, which not many people get to see. A picture doesn't do it justice. So it's really nice to be able to see it up close, and not too many people get that option, and which makes it really hard to really make your choice. So as I always explain to people, it's more of a dye. It's not as thick. It's a little bit more sleek compared to powder coat, and it's also one of my favorite finishes. All right, well, yeah, that's pretty much everything. That's what we do here. Thanks for stopping by. I'm stoked to see that Impala when it's done. So, yeah, can't wait for SEMA. We'll see you there.
While the guys were hard at work on the final fabrication details, bodyman Scott was starting to twiddle his thumbs. He'd already done as much prep work as possible across the way in his Bodywork shed, getting the fenders and doors ready. So rather than make him wait any longer, Paul decided to turn the fabrication shop into a dual fabrication and body shop by letting Scott get to work on the rest of the Impala body. It's probably not the ideal situation, and the fabrication shop will forever be covered in body filler dust, but when you're building a car of this caliber, in under a year, you gotta do what you gotta do. We'll keep this chapter short and sweet, but over the past month or two, Paul spent a few hours here and there mapping out the wiring for the Impala. Even though Paul could have gone out and bought a pre-made stock wiring harness or universal kit, it would have taken much more time to modify the wiring to do what he wanted than it would to just lay out a wiring harness from scratch. He likes using the Raceback Smart Wire power control module in conjunction with the Holley Terminator X-Max ECU. In case you haven't noticed, Paul's more than just a good fabricator or chassis engineer. He also seems to be some sort of a wiring guru too. So, when all is said and done with this 62 Impala build, we'll have to do another video on the ins and outs of wiring a classic car with modern electronics. It'll be something like our Chassis Engineering Secrets video, but all about wiring. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. Did we mention Paul has a lot of skills hidden behind that charming southern accent? Something he's decided to take up more recently is upholstery. Having cars sent out and get custom upholstery netted just as many headaches as having cars sent out for custom paint jobs. So, like the paint and body, Paul's also doing all the upholstery on our builds in-house too. With Lauren on staff full-time now, he even has some help shaping and stitching everything together. Once the seat frames were finalized, Paul got to work shaping all the foam for the front and rear seats. Then Lauren spent the last few weeks hiding in the upholstery corner of the shop, cutting and sewing all the relicate leather together. Similar to the engine bay, what's hiding under the trunk is anything but junk. Jake fabricated a pair of custom inner trunk panels that'll hide the dual excess power batteries mounted in Old Anvil Speed Shop CNC'd battery trays. On the driver's side will also be the dual Viair air compressors powering the Airlift Performance air ride system. Then the two flow air tanks and the Airlift 3H3 pre-controller manifold will be mounted in the rear of the trunk. Of course, with all custom mounting brackets, hard lines, and CNC bulkhead fitting. While the guys were fabricating and Lauren was upholstering, Scott was still bodyworking. Eventually the Impala got to the point where it could go to the paint booth for primer and the final rounds of blocking. At that point it was all hands on deck to get the car moved, taped, and all the last areas bodywork. Even our CNC machinist Matt put on a mask and got dusty. Then the guys got the Impala mounted on the rotisserie and finished welding out a few hard to reach areas of the floors before it was ready to be sealed. Once Scott was satisfied with the prep, it was finally time to tape and spray the car. On Saturday evening, just 2 weeks before the car needed to be at SEMA, Paul finally loaded up the spray gun with color. Then the next day, Paul got the underside of the car sprayed, the floors with bed liner, and the chassis in satin black. Monday morning, it was time to start reassembling the car for the final time. The car will debut at SEMA 2024 the week of November 5th. The Impala will be displayed in the SEMA Live booth, number 58135, along with a couple other vehicles built by someone else you might have heard of. Does the name Chip Foose ring a bell? But even if you won't be at the show, we'll publish another video during SEMA week showing what it took to completely assemble the car. So subscribe and stay tuned, because this is going to be one heck of a final build thrash.